Myanmar, also known as Burma, is a Southeast Asian nation with a rich history and culture. Its people have long strived for democracy and freedom. However, the country has been plagued by conflict and authoritarian rule. In recent years, Myanmar has faced a deepening crisis since the military coup in February 2021. This essay will delve into the multifaceted crisis gripping Myanmar, focusing on internet shutdowns, the civil war, the humanitarian situation, economic turmoil, and the international community's response. Myanmar's story is one of resilience in the face of adversity. The country has endured decades of military rule and ethnic conflicts. The hope that blossomed with the democratic transition in the 2010s was tragically cut short by the 2021 coup. The military junta's brutal crackdown on dissent has plunged the nation into a state of chaos and despair. The international community has struggled to find effective solutions to address the crisis. Sanctions and diplomatic pressure have yielded limited results. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, has faced criticism for its inability to mediate a resolution. Myanmar's people find themselves caught in a struggle for survival as the world watches. In an era defined by digital connectivity, Myanmar has become a stark example of internet suppression. The military junta has repeatedly imposed internet blackouts, plunging the nation into darkness and isolation. These shutdowns, often coinciding with periods of intense conflict and human rights abuses, are a blatant attempt to control the narrative and silence dissent. Myanmar's internet freedom has been on a downward spiral since the coup. In 2024 alone, the country experienced a record number of internet shutdowns, surpassing even the most repressive regimes globally. The impact of these shutdowns is devastating. The digital Iron Curtain has severe consequences for human rights monitoring, humanitarian aid delivery, and economic activity. It cripples businesses, disrupts education, and isolates communities. The internet, once a beacon of hope and progress for Myanmar, has become a tool of oppression in the hands of the junta. The roots of Myanmar's current crisis lie in the February 2021 military coup. The Tatmadaw, as the Myanmar military is known, seized power from the democratically elected government led by Aung San Suu Kyi. This act of aggression ignited widespread protests and a nationwide civil disobedience movement. The junta responded with brutal force, unleashing a campaign of violence and intimidation. The coup shattered the fragile peace that had been established in the previous decade. Ethnic armed organizations, or EAOs, some of whom had been engaged in ceasefires with the government, took up arms once again. The country descended into a complex and multifaceted civil war. The conflict has spread to various parts of the country, displacing millions of people and causing widespread suffering. The military has been accused of committing atrocities against civilians, including extrajudicial killings, torture, and sexual violence. The situation continues to deteriorate with no end in sight. The ongoing conflict in Myanmar has triggered a dire humanitarian crisis. Millions of people have been displaced from their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries or within Myanmar's borders. The United Nations estimates that over 1.5 million people are internally displaced, living in precarious conditions in camps and informal settlements. The humanitarian situation is characterized by widespread food insecurity, limited access to healthcare, and inadequate sanitation facilities. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated these challenges, putting immense strain on an already fragile healthcare system. The international community has mobilized to provide humanitarian assistance, but access to conflict-affected areas remains a significant challenge. The junta's restrictions on aid delivery, coupled with the volatile security situation, have hampered efforts to reach those most in need. Section 5. Economic collapse, from poverty to destitution. The combined effects of the coup, the civil war, and the COVID-19 pandemic have crippled Myanmar's economy. The country has experienced a dramatic decline in its gross domestic product, with poverty rates skyrocketing. The World Bank estimates that nearly half of the population is now living below the poverty line. The kyat, Myanmar's currency, has plummeted in value, leading to hyperinflation and soaring prices for essential goods. The cost of food, fuel, and medicine has become prohibitively expensive for many families. Businesses have been forced to close and unemployment has surged. The economic crisis has disproportionately impacted the most vulnerable segments of society, pushing them further into poverty and despair. The lack of economic opportunities and the breakdown of basic services have created a breeding ground for desperation and instability. Section 6. Crumbling foundations, social impacts of the crisis. Beyond the immediate casualties and economic devastation, the crisis in Myanmar is unraveling the social fabric of the nation. The education system, once a source of hope for a brighter future, has been severely disrupted. Many schools have been closed due to the conflict, while others are being used as military bases. The healthcare system, already fragile before the coup, is on the verge of collapse. Hospitals and clinics face chronic shortages of medicine, equipment, and qualified personnel. The junta's attacks on healthcare workers and facilities, deeming them sympathetic to the resistance, have further eroded trust in the system. The crisis has also had a profound impact on mental health. The trauma of displacement, violence, and economic hardship has taken a heavy toll on the population. Access to mental health services is limited, leaving many struggling to cope with the psychological scars of the crisis. Section 7. The world's response, a patchwork of efforts. The international community has responded to the crisis in Myanmar with a mix of condemnation, sanctions, and humanitarian aid. The United States, the European Union, and other Western countries have imposed targeted sanctions on military leaders and entities linked to the junta. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, of which Myanmar is a member, has taken a more conciliatory approach, seeking to engage with the junta through dialogue and diplomacy. However, ASEAN's efforts have been hampered by internal divisions and a lack of leverage over the military. Humanitarian organizations, both local and international, have been working tirelessly to provide assistance to those affected by the crisis. However, their efforts are constrained by funding shortages, access restrictions, and the challenging security environment. Section 8. The future of Myanmar. Uncertainty and hope. The future of Myanmar remains shrouded in uncertainty. The conflict shows no signs of abating and the humanitarian crisis continues to worsen. The military junta seems determined to consolidate its grip on power, despite international pressure and internal resistance. However, amidst the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. The resilience and determination of the Myanmar people, particularly the youth, continue to inspire. The civil disobedience movement, though forced underground, persists in its defiance of the junta. The international community must remain engaged and united in its support for the people of Myanmar. Sustained pressure on the junta, increased humanitarian assistance, and a commitment to justice and accountability are essential for any hope of a peaceful and democratic future. Section 9. Conclusion, a call for justice and peace. The crisis in Myanmar is a tragedy of immense proportions, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of authoritarian rule. The international community must not stand idly by as a nation descends into chaos and despair. The people of Myanmar deserve justice, peace, and the right to determine their own destiny. Their struggle for freedom and democracy is a fight for the soul of a nation, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to be silenced. The world must hear their call and stand in solidarity with them until the dawn of a brighter future breaks over the Golden Land.